right, everybody, we're going to get started here shortly. I felt tonight was a night to wear a tie for me. It's been a while, but I thought this night deserved it. But I got to go ahead and do something here. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. Q loves you coming to you live. Tonight is a very, very special show. For those that joined us on Thursday for Throwdown Thursday, it's kind of an extension of that. It was such a great chat that I wanted to have my boys back here and continue this. Really fantastic. We'll get into that in one moment. But it's this whole time right now, as we know, touchy subjects, lots of viewpoints. And the whole idea is to come at this with an open mind, certainly for myself, trying to figure out things on my side, from myself, the way I've been, the way I can be better. This is really an interesting time, and I want to be able to share that with you and hopefully help, connect a little differently than other things, and maybe CNN or Fox or all these other ways that we've been watching things nonstop. So, but I thank you all for being here, and I think it's going to be a really great show. One thing I do want to do is, if you guys are watching this and you're on Facebook, please share away, share, checking it out, share your friends, tell your friends this is on right now. You can always go back and watch the live show a little bit later. It's going to be on Facebook, whatnot, but we got that also. We are taking donations on the page for Black Lives Matter. So we've raised a couple bucks already. So thank you very much if you donated and help out a little bit. The other thing I'd like to do is invite anybody to share and follow Instagram. Q loves you all on Instagram, also on my page as well. I'd love to be able to continue sharing these things with everybody and keeping you all informed. And I want to give a shout out to one of my buddies, two of my best friends, Marco and Dom, who are out there. They have this phenomenal little company, especially right now, going back to the beach. Something I want to talk about. Everybody's going back to the beach. Well, they have this cool little company called Mayday Beach Rentals. You can check it out on Instagram, or you can DM me or message me. But basically, if you want to go to a beach and you want to have 15, 20 people, they get there early. They set up your spot. They bring the chairs. They bring the umbrellas. They bring the coolers. They bring the waters, whatever you want to do. It's a great little business. Tell them Q sent you. You get 20% off whatever you guys decide you're going to do. But it's awesome. Well worth it. You can come and go. You don't have to deal with any setup. It's a really cool thing. So give it a shot on Instagram, Mayday Beach Rentals, or hit me up, like I said. So that being said, I'd like to introduce our group for the night. Two amazing gentlemen that are just, two of my favorite people, and can have a conversation with them, and phenomenal writers, actors. I'd like to bring to you all again for since Thursday, we've got Ernie De Silva and James Moses Black. Say what's up, guys.
What say you?
All right, what's up, Ernie? James, how you doing over there?
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
What's up, guys? Yes. You said say what's up, guys. So I said what's up, guys.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys coming back out here again to talk. I know the feedback from Thursday was just awesome. If anybody hasn't watched that show, go back in and watch it. It's under the live videos. But I wanted to go a little further on kind of what we were talking about, and I wanted to get everybody to know you two just a little bit further down of what you guys are about a little bit more, because I think it's really impressive. And I love the way you guys' minds think and the conversations we have when we get going. So, I'm going to go ahead and start with Ernie this time. I think, James, we started with you last time. I'm going to go ahead and start with Ernie. Let's go again back into a couple things that writer, actor, musician. You do a little bit of everything, and you implement that all in your shows. You've got a couple shows. You do Smoke, Heavy Like the Weight of a Flame, and you're working on a third one called.
Well, there's a third one that we're working on about Jimi Hendrix called Gynesthesia, and then there's another just straight solo show that I'm working on that's called Synchronicity, but that one's still in its larval stages. So
Okay.
I don't even know what that show is going to be yet.
Well, I tell you, I mean, the best, and for anybody that was listening last week, again, Smoke is the first time I met you watching Smoke. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Your viewpoints, but it all comes from where you've come from, your travels and what you've done, your experiences and where you've gone. And I mean, from, riding the trains across country.
Hope you froze on me there, bro. Oh, Q, you froze on me. Well, lost you.
Yeah, I think he's froze.
You froze on yours too?
Yeah, he's frozen.
We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Please stand by. Now, either he's deeply in thought right now.
Yeah, or it's something just popped in his brain, man.
He's processing it right now.
Yeah, like.
So anyway, Brother James.
Yes, yeah. Well, he just clicked up. Maybe we just clicked out of here, man.
You know what I mean? So what inspires your work?
Wait, say it again, man. What
inspires your work? You understand? So what gets you?
Oh.
What grinds you to the bone and gets you out of bed in the morning?
Freedom.
Okay.
Freedom makes me get up and do what I like to do. I even watch what things I take on so that it does not get in the way of what I want to do personally with, art. We're artists, man. You went to college, right?
I did. I went to first I went to Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. That's where I got my BA. And then I went to USC and I graduated from USC with my master's degree in 2009.
Yeah. And we went to school, and it was the point I reached after school that I was like, why I go to school?
You waited till after school to reach that point?
Yeah, it's like what am I doing? But it was a necessary thing, I thought.
But you like, oh, how much?
Yeah, right. And how many years I gotta pay that off? Let me get that deferment, one more 10-year plan.
You know what I mean? I get it. You know what I mean? But where'd you go to school at?
I went to an HBCU in Ohio called Central State University.
Oh, okay.
But I started off at a predominantly white college or University of Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
And a woman from the University of Minnesota told me I should go to Central State, transfer. I just wasn't getting, first of all, I wasn't getting 50 degrees below zero weather. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was definitely just like a burden to me to live there. And then the culture when I went to school was way different. And, I think I was probably 1,000 out of 1,000 students, 50,000 students, 1,000 were Black. So,
wow.
Yeah.
In Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I was like, this is pretty much not my, my thing. You know what I mean? And not the education was fine, but it was just wasn't my thing, man. And
you like the HBCU better?
Yeah, man, because it was focused. It was focused training, not just being a college graduate, but just helping you to navigate the world.
Right.
Because the emphasis was you, not the education or the institution necessarily, but it was you. Right, what's up? You back? Can't hear you.
Hey.
You gotta unmute yourself. He had, hey, listen, he had the whole background set up, and now
I know.
Right?
You can't hear me? Nope, we can't hear you. You're gonna go onto your computer? Oh, your computer's dead.
Oh, this is the kitchen? You're showing us the kitchen now. Okay.
Good. I was planning on renting your spot anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? You might as well show us around.
Yeah, show us around, man.
So you know what? He kind of briefed us on some of the stuff he wanted to talk about. So
Right.
from what I understand, one of the topics is all lives matter today, right? So you know what? I'll hand the platform to you first, brother. Whoa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Oh,
can hear.
wait, I hear something now.
You can hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
sir, we can.
Okay, at least we're on. So sorry about that. Dude, it's crazy. Maybe somebody doesn't want us talking too much.
You know, that's what it is. They don't want us talking to each other.
It literally just, whoop. So I don't know if my computer just died. It blew up. It literally blew up. It's crazy. So anyway, sorry about that. Let's keep going. Where were we at? So Ernie, where'd you get to? Sorry about that. We're gonna go.
But we were just about to broach the topic of all lives matter.
Okay.
We were about to start. So because we didn't know how long, we know we talked about that beforehand, and we didn't know how long you'd be off. So I thought I would
Go for it.
pass the baton off to brother James.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's do it. It's
Where
crazy.
we at? Where we at? What we doing?
God, I'm trying to go ahead and make.
I guess, are we talking about all lives, our lives, Black lives, all that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to just the comparison between why All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter. There's some people out there. I mean, like I used to not understand the big difference. I used to be a guy that was all lives matter straight across the board, right? And it just because all lives matter to me, right? I mean, that's how I thought. But it's different. It's different now. I mean, I've appreciated Black Lives Matter, but this is something now that is it's a precipice. It's where we need to be, and we got to focus on that as a whole. I think it's a very important time to definitely have everyone's back in this situation and understand that it's not the focus is not on all lives right now. I mean, it's different. So that's what I'm trying to get some people to, I think, see a little bit. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, I've certainly come around a little bit more in the last little bit.
Well, I think one of the things that I think about, obviously, is the word OUR. Our lives matter. All lives matter. That's probably a contentious point, but our lives matter. And I'm not to say that to put down anybody saying BLM or ALM. I'm not saying like that. I'm saying our lives matter when it comes to what we want, not only for ourselves, because you just can't want something selfishly, right? Especially social or something like, you can't want something just for yourself, right? So you have, in my opinion, I have to think about our lives. Our lives as human beings, what do we want from our lives? What do I want from my life? What does Ernie want from his life? What do you want from your life? And hopefully there are some overlapping things in our lives that we want for not only for ourselves, but for each other. And so, I mean, you could cross these two words, all and our, but whose life do you think about first? I think about my life every day, every single day, as a Black man, as a human, but it's my life that I think about, right? And not necessarily as a color or a gender, but as it relates to this earth and to all people, right? Because I have to kind of set the example of what I do, so not necessarily that others can follow, but at least I'm approachable to a conversation, right? So you don't think I'm approachable to a conversation because I might say something, but I want to be approachable to life, right? Not if somebody tells me, there's a time traveler and he's right over there. I mean, I might not. I mean, that's what we talked about earlier. I might not be, willing to sit down with a time traveler. But I think that the more we make our lives approachable, and this is what I said to someone a couple of days ago, when the common man runs out, whoever that common person is that is disregarded and not respected, someone else will take their place. And I saw a video today of a white woman getting choked out because she was protesting, and her boyfriend was a photographer. And it just dawned on me. I said, listen, man, if you terminate me or if you exterminate me, you got to replace me with someone else. So we should be concerned about all lives, because all lives can be replaced, and not replaced in a way that, we can exterminate you and you can go away, but someone else can step into what can happen to us, right? Someone else can, whether it's a gender, whether it's another race, whoever it is. These same things can happen to you. So I don't think people should, I don't think that I want to get the notion that this can only happen to me. It's happening to me a lot as a Black man, as a man, but I'm not the only one this happens to,
Right. Well, and Ernie, where are you at on that?
I have a slightly different, I think our points of views are very simpatico. I just have a slightly different bent on it. When I consider the discussion of all lives matter, there's a lot to consider there, right? First, we have to consider why that terminology even came about. So analogies are really helpful, I think, in situations like this. So I'll try to offer one or two. If I go to the doctor and I say, listen, I have cancer in my pancreas, how would that doctor look to tell me, well, why are you not concerned with your heart? I mean, don't all organs matter? Well, yeah, all organs do matter. However, the problem is not in my heart. The problem is in my pancreas. So why should I be considering all organs right now? See, I use that analogy to say that the only reason that people are shouting all lives matter at all right now is because Black lives have not mattered. Now, here's what I mean by that specifically. BLM, from what I know about them, right? I went to school with Shamel Bell, who was one of the, key activists in BLM throughout the first, Shamel and I have known each other since like 2006. And here's the thing. You can tell that the idea, there's a lot of well-meaning people who would attach themselves to a terminology like all lives matter to stop discussing the specificity of it, right? Now, maybe that's not everyone's intention, but that's in essence what the people who at the core of that movement, that's what they were after. They were after the idea of debasing the specificity of it. Now, why would we say that? Well, because unless, as we were joking about actually earlier before the podcast started, if we're going to claim, or if we're going to sit back and believe, not us three specifically, but if anyone is going to sit back and believe that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of Black and brown people are lying for decades about the fact that the police treat them a certain way, you're willfully asking to be ignorant, right? That's my perspective on it. Right. We're not all lying. And when all of us are saying the same story, there is something that needs to be considered there. So BLM has never meant, from my viewpoint, it's never meant white lives don't matter. It's apparent that the judicial system doesn't know Black lives matter. So I'll use another analogy. If I have a daughter, or if any of us has a daughter who's 3 years old, and that daughter comes home and says to us, listen, I'm being picked on, somebody's pulling on my pigtails. If I take my daughter up to school to talk to the principal or the teacher, and I say, listen, I'd like to address this. My daughter's being bullied, her pigtails are getting pulled, and what happened? What would that teacher look like telling me, listen, all kids shouldn't be bullied? Well, yeah, we know that. But my daughter's the one getting bullied. Yeah, but we can't focus on that because all kids shouldn't be bullied. Yeah, again, we know that. However, this is the kid getting bullied. So why don't we focus on the kid that's getting bullied, because the rest of them are not? When I see to chime in on something that Brother James said, when I see somebody who's white, like that lady that got choked out by that cop, right? That her,
Right.
her boyfriend was like a photographer or something like that.
Yeah.
To me, that should make the terminology be getting screamed louder, and here's why. That's how badly people don't want you saying Black Lives Matter, that they were willing to choke a white person out. That's how badly they didn't want you focusing on the fact that Black Lives Matter, because I feel like that terminology is incendiary for a lot of reasons. See, if we start to consider the idea that Black lives are getting tormented in a way by the system that isn't happening proportionally to other races, then we got to start peeling back the layers as to why.
Right.
That's the problem.
Well,
It's
right.
not that people are upset that, well, Black Lives Matter sounds racist. No, it's not racist, because it never means all lives don't matter. But if you accept the idea that Black Lives Matter has a whole complicated ideology behind the thought, you got to start accepting what that means. How does it come about? How is it that Blacks have been systematically treated a certain way, brown people as well, right? How deep does that go? How much does that start reflecting on you or me or the system? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? So I think that we have to be specific about this for a second, because apparently the judicial system doesn't know that Black and brown lives matter. That's why you got to call it out specifically, in my opinion.
I think the, going back all the way back, right? We're reading up. I mean, police actually got started for what they were collecting, like back in the day, right? It was for chasing slaves that had gotten away. I mean, that's what I was reading.
That's how the cops started. Yeah, that's how the police started.
So if we talk about, obviously, if we go back to that and we talk about it, I mean, if you start, again, not saying that every cop is racist, and that's not the case for everybody, right? We're not saying anything like that. But you talk about how long it's been in the system and where, I mean, obviously in the country, I mean, it's there, right? I mean, it's there, it's everywhere. And that's the other avenue too. Again, going back to, just racism in general. I mean, again, we all kind of know this, but to say it out loud, there's white people are racist, there's Asians that are racist, the Asian community, there's obviously the African American community, there's racism. Racism itself is something that we feel, right? We feel it whether we know it or not. We're feeling it in so many ways all the time. And I'm trying to think of like the subliminal aspect of where we're seeing it. I was trying to figure out something. We had talked about, I was just having a conversation the other day. It was something that came up, just some subliminal aspects of racism. You guys have any off the top of your head? It was literally some really basic ones that were like right in front of my face that I never saw.
Subliminal aspects of racism?
And
like basic stuff like writing. It was definitions in the just definitions and certain things like that are really basic. Yeah. There was some stuff out in the open, and I was trying to remember what it was.
Well, you still have to remember. Go ahead.
So like, for example, I mean, essentially, I won't mention her name, but there is a certain Black person who is in the public eye right now who is not very pleased with Black people. I won't mention her name, but she mentioned something about how Black people are the ones to try to uplift or glorify the worst among us. It speaks exactly to what you're talking about. How is it that all of our money, like nobody concentrates on the fact that all of our money has people who were slave traders on it? There's one right there.
Right.
The money that we use, the very thing that is the blood and the blood of this entire system that we live in every day, that we fight for, we need, we try to stack up as much as we can. There are slave traders literally on our money. So there's one that's right in our face.
Well, that's it. Other countries have philosophers, other countries have writers, other countries have, all this other.
And you also have to look at the Constitution of America. I mean, the Constitution of America still says 3/5 of a man. So if you're looking for signs of racism, man, you just look directly at the Constitution.
Right.
that's a shining example of what is still. And Cory Booker was against the guy Paul Rand a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Paul Rand put his foot down on as a lynching law.
Yeah.
And again, if you just want some current sort of examples of racism, Rand says he wants this law. He didn't approve it because he didn't want anybody to abuse the law. Now listen, it's a lynching law. It's an anti-lynching law. The mere fact that we are talking about an anti-lynching law is racist. We're talking about an anti-lynching law that doesn't have 100% consideration across the board in the Senate or the House or wherever it's at. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You want to make sure nobody abuses the law.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cory Booker said, I don't want to offend Mr. Rand, and so I'm not going to say anything against him. I said, Cory Booker, it's an anti-lynching law. That should say it all.
That's where you're supposed to go in. That's where you're supposed to go in. When somebody's opposed to that, that's when you're supposed to go in.
Right.
That's when you're supposed to dig for the jugular at that point.
Yeah.
Let's change. Let's change up the speed from lynching to defunding.
Okay.
Defunding right now, the big topic, right? I mean, obviously, I think the one thing that we know, there's some stuff about, people are just saying, well, let's reform it. Let's reform the system a little bit. Let's defund. And defund basically is really, that's what it is. It's just, to some extent, just taking money away and bringing into other facets of the city or whatnot, right? Changing the money from the budget to budget. But they're talking about reform, right? And the one thing that's not able to really be done is because of the police unions, right? Reform is not that easy. So it seems to be the easiest thing to do is defund. And I know you guys have opinions on this a little bit. So I just wanted to, touch base a little bit and see what it ain't. Now, I just want to go for it. Ernie, you're chomping.
Me first?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fascinated by the hysteria that I'm seeing, online, or people that I know about. Defunding the police doesn't mean getting rid of the police department. No one ever said that. That's not what it means. You might have some people who are like, no, that's not what it means. What it means is reallocating certain resources so that the police department is a much more favorable thing. Look, you ask anyone that you know, regardless of what socioeconomic background they're from, do any of us want to have beef with the police? No. So the idea of defunding or reforming the police department would mean reallocating how the cops, and first of all, cops don't need military grade weaponry for dealing with routine policing. They just don't. They don't. And in fact, there's way too many cases to prove that whenever they have that kind of firepower, if you will, they act irresponsibly with it. So that's one thing. Defunding would mean not giving them money to have militarized weaponry. Secondly, defunding could also mean things like, look, I remember reading this thing called Campaign Zero years ago that was really interesting, which speaks to this lane, right? For example, we never get to choose what cops work in our neighborhoods. So what happens? We end up having these cops who are from neighborhoods that are not like ours, never experienced people like us or whatever, and now they're cops in our neighborhood. Well, why shouldn't it be a case where the people from the neighborhood get to, in a town hall kind of style, meet the cops that are looking to work in their neighborhoods and be able to have a personal relationship with them up front, and then have the neighborhood decide, listen, we would like that cop to work here. We would not like that cop to work here, because then those cops are safe. The neighborhood is safer. It's a more communal way of deciding who works in your neighborhood, right? Because if I got somebody if you're gonna put somebody from, like LA did when the Rodney King riots happened, they brought people from the South.
Right.
to be cops in Los Angeles. Yeah, that's going to work out well. That's going to work out really well. You're bringing these people who potentially have racist bents already into the middle of an all-black neighborhood. Yep, that's going to work out really well, right? Democratic ways of picking the cops in your neighborhood is another way to defund the police. Basically, what you're doing is you're reimagining what the police department is like. Look, in 2001, I believe it was, Ireland did it all over their country, and they're just fine. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So the idea of defunding the police does not mean getting rid of the police department. It means reimagining how that police department interacts with their neighborhood. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, nothing's. I mean, things haven't worked out so far the way it's been going. So I mean, we got to try something, all right?
Well, that's because no one has really actually said we need the police departments to reform. You know, no one said that. You know, it's just to this point, it's like, oh, we got a couple of bad apples. Nah, we don't. We got a system that's bad. You don't have a couple of bad. You don't have to. So I think one of the guys in law enforcement at Trump's place said 99.9% of all cops are good. And I go, well, that surely does not tell the tale of how many people have been murdered. You know, if there's 0.01% of the cops are only the cops that commit all the murders and all these tragedies, this is now, again, we're not 100% across the country using body cams, are we? Not, we haven't seen the body cam from Floyd yet, right? So you're saying only 0.01% of the cops are bad. That's a ridiculous statement. I mean, it's almost as ridiculous as saying that all cops are bad. That's a ridiculous statement. And like what Bro Ernie said, man, I am not with getting rid of the police. Because whether you like it or not, we still got criminals.
Yeah, I'm kind of. We need police.
Yeah, man. So I'm not. You know, lawlessness is already crazy in our world, man. So I wouldn't be one to say get rid of the police, but as Ernie said, there has to be a way of determining who is right. And if this person's not right, this person just can't move to another state and go get a job. Right? Because there are some identifying marks that makes this person not that competent enough to be a social worker. And that's what he is. He's protecting the community.
Absolutely. Right? And you know something, if I may, because something that you said, John, kind of sparked something for me. The idea that most cops are good, okay, fine. I'll go with that. But I'll ask this, right? I think it's just a thought that I've always had. If the law that you're enforcing is unjust to begin with, is there a such thing as a good cop?
Right. That makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be a good person, but still have to uphold something that's not right. Well, if you are upholding a law that isn't right, like say, for example, stop and frisk in New York, you could be a good cop, but you're still in the wrong for stopping and frisking people who you were told to target Black and brown people.
Yeah, what was that? I saw it was like, it was like 90 or 87% was Black or Mexican or something like that. It was
Puerto Rican, Dominican.
Latino, Puerto Rican. Yeah. It was like 87%, something crazy like.
And even with the incident with the older man, and this is to what Ernie is saying, when the old man got pushed, right? They pushed this old man down, he cracked his head. And the police, one went to get him and check him, and one, the commander, I guess, said, no, keep it moving. That is essentially not being a social worker.
Right.
Like, this dude just cracked his head, and you don't want me to check on him?
Right. And that shows the exact discord of what's going on, because you can see somebody genuinely cared, and then you got somebody going, no, that's not protocol. Like, this is not what we're doing. Like, it's like it was like, what do I do? I'm stuck in between. Am I supposed to help this guy? And you saw him like looking around.
Have to have a moral compass.
Right.
They have to have a moral compass. It's not about disobeying an order. It's about just obeying the laws of humanity.
Yeah. Yep. And I say, that speaks loudly to something that I said earlier in the podcast was like, listen, that's how badly people don't want you standing up for the idea that Black Lives Matter. They push down, what was he, 80 years old?
78-year-old
75.
That's
75.
how badly some people will virulently act toward the idea that you're sticking up for the idea that Black Lives Matter. That's the bigger question for me. Not whether or not we should say Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. But I don't, I was just kind of chiming in. That just gave me
and that's that. To my point is that's when if you think it can only happen to me,
mm-hmm.
Here we go. This 70-year-old man, white, man, it's so yeah.
Well, and yeah, and I say, well,
the semantics of it all is where the division might get. People are trying to make a divide out of it. You know what I mean? All are Black. The semantics of it and what it actually means. And for me, all of it means that you can have an opinion about our lives, all lives, Black lives. You can have that. You can have it. It's okay.
Absolutely.
It's okay. So, whether you say what the person we saw online today, I can't support Black lives or, if that was your husband in the street who just got pushed down,
mm-hmm.
should I support that? Of course. Right. I don't even need to name it. I don't need to name it. Old man matters or white man matters. I don't need to name it. I just see it. That is not right.
Mm-hmm.
And
also, like, it's funny to me that the theory that we should, it's funny to me the theory that it's even something discussable, really, right? Like,
what are you referring to?
People wouldn't just decide to say Black Lives Matter just because they wanted to piss people off. I mean, from my perspective, look, I'm not asking anyone to not be, if you're not going to change your heart about racism, I don't want you to change your heart about it. I'm not telling you to not be racist. What I am saying is that you're not allowed to inflict negativity on my life because you're racist.
Gotcha. Yep.
At the end of the day, that's really what that's about. If you're going to be racist, be it. Do you. I don't care. Do it amongst your circle, though. Don't infringe upon my life with your racism. So if you're racist and you're a cop, you're not allowed to inflict harm on me because of your racism. Nah. You keep that to yourself. You go be racist amongst your boys, drink Coors beer, do whatever you want to do, listen to Lynyrd Skynyrd and lament about the days when people got hung, all you want amongst your circle. Just don't infringe upon my life because of that viewpoint. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Well, and I think and that's the interesting part is I think the lines have been broken down right now, which is really a unique thing to see, right? With everybody coming together on this. I mean, the lines are broken down where there is no sitting around anymore. I mean, for the first time, look, we're in a generation, right? What we have? Rodney King was that 92?
92.
92. And it's been 30 years, 27, 28 years since that really happened. And now we didn't have social media, any of that stuff back then. We have now, internet's kicked up 90s or whatever it was. So we have now a generation of all races and creeds and colors that have been witnessing this stuff real time along with everybody else and realizing that this shit is wrong when they got to step up and come out. And there's a lot of people that are racist, but for somehow there's been this weird divide about people feeling like everybody is racist. Even if you're out racist and you're white and you're sitting in a white area, you feel like you're racist because, I don't know, it's like this weird thing where you're not racist, but you feel like if you want to support something that's African-American, it makes you feel like racist to the white people or something. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? It's like weird.
Oh, it makes sense. It's the same thing as like when we're sitting on a bus and some black kid acts up and people look at you like,
yeah, like we supposed to stop it.
I know, like what that got to do with me?
Got to do with me? Yeah.
What that got to do with me?
Right.
The thing is though, Sinbad used to joke about this back in the day. For real, Black people though, whenever we see something like that going on a bus, we start looking at each other like, can you stop him, please?
Yeah,
My line, Dave, my line, we be like, can
do.
you stop him, please?
You see this?
Like, oh, really? This dude.
Dude right here. You know, and that's when you all of a sudden you say, hey, little bro, come on, man.
Well, and I think that's kind of
right?
For real.
And I think that's what's happening right now all the way across the board. I mean, everywhere across the board. I mean, people are looking at other people going, really? This is how you are? Like, I mean, it's not okay. You know, everybody's got to talk and be like, yo, it doesn't matter. This is not okay.
Yeah.
We're watching the kid on the bus right now. You know what I mean?
Big ups to all the white folks doing that. Like, yo, thank you. We've been waiting for y'all. We've been waiting for y'all to jump in and be like, yo, get your boy, man.
Well, and again, it started.
Right.
You know, we got to a point where it's, you know, it's horrible, and we can go into the rioting aspect. As horrible as it was, I think the rioting coming into some of the neighborhoods kickstarted some people's minds a little bit differently into this. You know, it kind of brought it into certain neighborhoods that have been kind of had a luxury of not being involved in it per se, right? Been able to kind of block it out a little better.
Yeah, not even luxury. People, most people, and I'm not saying all because they don't. Most people are not destructive.
Right.
People don't want to see their houses, their shops, and they don't want to see all that happen. They don't want to see that burnt up. I think those people in Minneapolis wanted that to happen. You think that when King went down, Ronnie King went down and all that stuff happened down there in Watts, you think they wanted that? They didn't want, and that's why they said, this time we're going to cross over here. But most people don't want destructive behavior. And that's why you saw a lot of people intercepting actions, like people about to break some of them, like people would run up on them like, hey, man, come on, you got
Right.
You know, because at the end of the day, if you don't have a place to stay, that is going to be another concern. Right? You burn your house down. Now you got something else to do. You don't have a place where you can get your parents the medication or whoever the medication is. You want that. That's another problem that you're going to have. So it's not. Most people don't want to be destructive. I know they don't. This inherently, I know they don't. You know.
And most people that live in those neighborhoods are not rioting.
Right.
A large portion of the people in those neighborhoods are not rioting. You know, it was like I was having a discussion with this gentleman about a year back when he started to talk about gang violence, and he didn't like the idea of a BLM or something like that, because he was like, well, why don't they concentrate on the gang murders in Chicago? That's always the narrative, right? And that it infuriates me, but it makes me laugh, because I'm like, you know, if you rounded up all the gangbangers in the country, right, you'd probably be looking at maybe 0.0008% of the Black population. I mean, even in the middle of, like, I grew up in New York City during the crack epidemic, okay? And here's the facts of the matter. There was crime all the time. There was a lot of foul things that went down in the neighborhood. But here's another fact that never got really focused on by the news. 99.999% of the people that lived in my neighborhood were not drug dealers, had never done drugs, had never shot a gun, had never sold anything like that. You know what I mean? But yet it's that tiny percentage of people that all of a sudden wins the whole narrative. Well, why don't they concentrate on gang violence in Chicago? Well, most Black people are concentrating on the gang violence in Chicago because most of us are not killing each other.
Right.
What else? How much more focus can we give it? Most of us ain't shooting each other. Most of us are not killing each other. Most of us don't own guns. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
100%. 100%. 100%.
So, for whatever that's worth, the next time one of our friends, All Lives Matters us.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, let's talk about all lives mattering.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And again, I mean, it's, you know, I think everybody's, it's trying to get people to see a viewpoint that they haven't seen before. I mean, that's the hardest thing to do is to open your mind a little bit, and
Yeah.
you know, and even to be able to have a conversation when it's when you know what's going on, when you see certain people saying certain things, and to be able to keep the cool enough to listen.
Yeah.
And I learned this in the restaurant world and being a GM forever.
I bet.
How to diffuse the situation, right? You just got to diffuse the situation and
Yeah.
listen. But that's an art form that takes a lot of time to practice. And in this time, in this age, and the polarized aspect, again, talking about, like we talked about the last show, you got to breathe, and you've got to be able to, you have to want to listen, and you have to want to hear. And if you don't, it's all futile. I mean, you know, it's all futile. I mean, you're kind of just doing it for certain people, obviously not for everybody, but I think the conversations have to continue, need to continue, and not stop no matter what's going on here, because I really feel the momentum is at a place that I've never experienced before, in terms of the racism itself being brought to the forefront, and just everybody jumping in. I think it's, yeah, we said it the other day, it's a great thing to be seeing, as horrible as it is and what's going on. It's a great thing to be a part of. I have a lot of hope for what we're trying to accomplish. And
when you see protests worldwide, I mean, in every country, you know, there's something wrong.
Right.
There's something wrong, man. And if you get them in, whether you get them in Ireland, whether you get them in London, whether you get them in Brazil, whether you get them in China, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And if there ain't no Black person in China, you can bet there's somebody being tormented.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who is that person?
Right.
There's something wrong.
For real.
So, you know, so
like
you
millions of people in line.
Yeah, you can say, like, you know, all lives, nah, man, across this world, all lives don't matter. That's the whole thing.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, I love the way, like, the modern day media too, they try to, like, corner the conversation into something tiny, right? Where they're like, okay, well, we're gonna make this about the idea that George Floyd was a criminal. And you're making too big of a deal over one Black guy getting killed. No, the problem is that it takes a blatant instance like that to force people en masse to focus on all the rest of the injustices that cops commit inside of those neighborhoods. It's not just about them killing us. It's about the way they interact with us, period, right? Like, the first time I ever got a gun pulled on me by a cop, I was 8
Damn.
years old.
Damn.
Okay. I was coming out of a grocery store with a gallon of milk in my hand that I had just bought, right? Now, the cop, obviously I had walked into the middle of a situation that was going on, right? The cop wasn't directly focusing on me. But when you decide to point, at the time, a revolver that's cocked, by the way, in the face of an 8-year-old, and scream something like "fucking freeze, motherfucker," okay? Whether or not you shot me, that's going to reverberate through the rest of my life, right? Am I going to blame all cops for that? No, I have too much sense. But here's what I would have liked to have offered to that cop. Say he accidentally pulled the trigger, because, right, that's the narrative now, right? Well, I accidentally killed him. That's the narrative, right? I was the first member of my family to graduate from college. I was the only member of my family so far that has gotten their master's degree, okay? I've traveled the world telling my stories. My friends are proud of me. My families are proud of me. Here's the thing. That's who that cop would have killed. That's who he would have killed. Not some person who was on their way to becoming some nefarious person, not anything like that. That's who they would have killed, right? And the narrative around that would have been like, Well, I don't know. Maybe if the kid would have stayed still, he wouldn't have got shot. You see what I'm saying? The murder of George Floyd, the murder of Breonna Taylor, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, the murder of Trayvon Martin, the murder of Michael Brown is not just about those murders. It's about the systemic way that cops act toward us in our neighborhood on all levels, even when it doesn't amount in murder, even when it doesn't amount to murder. It's about how they act toward us, how they police our neighborhoods doesn't always end in murder. It's about all of those things. The sad part about it is that until it's such a blatantly ugly situation, like any of the murders I just named, no one else will pay attention. That's the part of it that the All Lives Matter crowd, in my opinion, isn't understanding. They think it's just about, well, it was just one murder. I mean, a cop did this and yeah, we don't like it and all that kind of stuff, but why are you overreacting? No, it's not just about that murder. It's about the way policing happens to us on all levels of the way they deal with us.
And when they say overreacting, I go back to the scenario of the entire world that must be overreacting. If
Right.
you just want to put this on me, you need to take a look at the world. Take a look at the world.
For real.
I'm overreacting. I am reacting just like the world is reacting.
Mm-hmm.
So if the world is reacting in a certain way, that's not an overreaction. That's a response to an element of society that has to be fixed.
Right.
Absolutely.
They used to take people had issues psychologically, a lobotomy. They give them boom, here's a lobotomy.
Yep.
They're not any good. That's when people say, let's get rid of the police. I go, that's a lobotomy, man. You know that.
Right.
That's
right.
that is not going to fix our issues, man. We're going to create more issues.
Right.
So let's talk about the real deal. We've got to reform. So when people say overreact, it's like, you really want me to comment on that, right? You really want me to comment on that.
Right. I'm making that up.
Yeah. You want me to tell you to take a global look at what's happening and then tell me I'm overreacting.
Well, and it's also insulting too, because if you think
it's dismissive. Yeah,
it's really insulting because what people who claim that are basically saying whether they intend to or not. See, people of color, brown folks, and a lot of white folks even who have been trying to be down with the struggle for decades have been telling people, look, this is what's going on with the police in those Black neighborhoods. It never became enough of an issue to cause nationwide, let alone international chaos the way it has, right? Until a platform like Facebook came along, which for all intents and purposes is a white platform, right? We could say it was invented by white guys, pretty much. Until a white platform like Facebook came along and told you this was true, you didn't believe it until then. You know how insulting that is? I mean, do you know how insulting that is? That for decades, tens of thousands of Black people complaining about this wasn't enough. It wasn't until Facebook validated it.
Right.
That people started going, oh my God, this is a real problem. Listen, we'll take it the way it comes. If it's Facebook that caused people to start seeing things and wake up or whatever, that's fine. But the All Lives Matter thing, in my opinion, kind of reverberates toward that point. It's like, right, us saying Black Lives Matter is not enough to convince you that needs to be said. Wow, thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate that, actually.
And again, just to sort of travel a little further off what Ernie is saying in terms of media approach, the body cams are sort of media, right? The body cams are media. Right. Yet they're not, it's kind of sort of like blackout media. You don't get to see all body cams, right? Because again, what I'm going to tell you is we still haven't seen and I want to make another point. We still haven't seen the body cam footage from the George Floyd thing. We still haven't seen it.
Right.
Even though that is mandated, we still haven't seen that footage. So
they can't doctor it.
so
James, did you learn anything? I was just saying, were you still going on a certain direct point right now? I was going to ask. Okay, go ahead.
I'm an older cat, so if you interrupt me, it's going to be done.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, I barely responded when you said James. I was like, no, but I was saying in terms of media that the body cam is a sort of a media. And then the other point I told you, I forgot. So I don't know what I was getting to with Ernie, but you wouldn't know these things happened unless there was some documented evidence, which people who were doing bad things, they were relying on no documented evidence.
Mm-hmm.
None. So we can do this, right? We can get away with all these things. And even now with the body cam, you still have a body cam that's not mandated across the country.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
We're the cops. Okay, we want you to wear it. We the people.
We're paying your salaries.
You know, we want you to be protected as well as us. You know.
Absolutely. And
else to say, I forgot it.
And also, you're asking a lot. Like when you watch Fox News pundits, for example, they like to quote the statistics that the FBI gives them. Or, you're asking a lot of people to trust the idea that these statistics that you're being given are 1,000% truthful. You're asking a lot. You're asking a lot of people to believe that the FBI is going to be 100 with everybody about everything that it's doing in Black neighborhoods, or that the police departments are being completely transparent about everything that happens in Black and brown neighborhoods. You're asking a lot.
Well, and I think I'll say that across the board, that's probably hard to get that anywhere, right? Transparency across the board.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a fair one, right?
It's not hard when your car gets clipped by a speeding light ticket. You get clipped by. They use it not to make sure you're guilty. I understand. Here comes the traffic light that has a speed signal to get your license plate.
For real.
That's understandable. That is understandable, right? I'm going to slow down, and now you can't take that same sort of approach to a camera that will let us know what the actual event was.
Right. And that's on purpose. We have to say that that's on purpose. I mean, why would the cops want people prying in to everything that happens? Why would they want that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just ludicrous, man. You care more about giving me a ticket than you do about my life. You'd rather give me a speeding ticket based on this light's performance instead of equipping an officer of the law with a camera that can protect everyone. I don't know, man.
Design.
It certainly seems a little off kilter. We'll put it like that. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's indicative of something that I was talking about earlier, which is that, if we really started to do things like that, it would start to uncover a bunch of things that people don't necessarily want to accept.
Well, and I think that's it. I mean, you'll start seeing everything. You'll start seeing everything. It'll be put too much into perspective, I guess. Maybe, right?
And listen, we have video cameras on every corner.
Well, and every pocket and every hand.
There's like video, and you don't want to put one on a peace officer. Well,
I certainly think, like you said, I think now is that, I mean, as much we could say defund, whatever, reform, however we see it, I mean, this is the time where that's going to come out. And I don't think I don't think it's going to stop until certain things are absolute across the board. I mean, I can't imagine it. There's still going to be some fight in certain states. There's still going to be some fights, and it's probably not going to be a federal thing, right? It's got to be state by state, all this, city by city, all the way down the line. So it's got to be seems like it's almost have to be like a grassroots effort in a certain, which is kind of what's happening now. But even within the smaller police stations or larger police station, each one's going to have to do its own thing, right?
Well, just like systemic racism, there has to be systemic sort of protection.
Mhm.
You know, you say that racism is systemic. What about protection? Protection doesn't go as deep as racism. So, you know, there has to be the same boundary of equality when we talk about these things, man. You know, I can't expect to be, you know, protected by something that, you know, there's something wrong. We haven't vetted it. We haven't done anything. We just say, okay, you're capable, go out and protect and serve.
Right.
Well, and
Right.
that was it. So we talked about we talked about a little bit on Thursday. There was somebody I just saw posted something about hairdressers, and I think it said like 1,500 hours to become a hairdresser and like 840 hours to become a cop of training.
Right. But see, that's the thing. It's like if we again, these are discussions that people don't really want to have, like the one that we're having right now. You know, a lot of people at large don't really want to have that discussion. But the truth is, you know, it drives me nuts when I hear people say that the system's broken. It's not. It's designed to do exactly what it's doing. When we call it broken, we're dismissing it like, oh, it just doesn't know better. No, that's what it's designed to do. The police training is designed to be 6 months because look, what cop shouldn't go on the beat knowing law? What cops shouldn't go on the beat knowing how to dismantle situations? What cops shouldn't go on the street being sharpshooters so that you don't have to kill everybody that you shoot at? Well, you know, like that's a lengthy span of time and training that they should get,
Right.
which they don't. If you continuously don't get that if you don't get that for 2 years, then you go, okay, well, they're still working on it.
Yeah.
If you don't get that for 5 years, you go, well, they're still working at it. You don't get that for 60 or 70 years, you want it that way.
Yeah.
And that's you know what I mean? And that's the conversations that people don't want to have, which is what the idea of a Black Lives Matter is forcing people to do now, because now a lot of white folks are like, nah, we ain't down with this shit. What's going on for real?
Yeah.
You know, it's causing the tide to turn there.
If you look at, and blacks got the right to vote in 1865, right? 1865 is the original, right after the Emancipation Proclamation in 63, 1865, you got the right to vote. It took another 100 years for the Civil Rights Act to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It could guarantee that people could go and vote. It took 100 years.
That means
so does that
go ahead.
I was gonna say, so does that mean it's another 100 years from the civil rights to when
No,
you got this?
I'm not putting anything in a chronological way. I am saying, don't get disappointed when the things you think should happen tomorrow won't.
Right. Right.
Like, I think they're gonna let that dude off.
The main one?
The dude that, Chauvin, I think they.
Oh no, he ain't getting off.
Yeah, well, we'll see. There might be one or two of the other guys that maybe get off. Who knows? But we don't know. We ain't seen.
They are turning the other three against him, saying he was the leader, and now his attorney is trying to. Man, if he gets off,
well, if he doesn't get off, he will potentially get some kind of insulting sentence. They're already turning him into a drug addict who did porn and held his baby mother at gunpoint when she was pregnant. They turn in all kinds of narratives on this. Whenever they do that, they're attempting to do something underhanded. Because if that goes down, it's setting a precedent all over the country. If that cop goes down like that, you know,
I don't. It doesn't feel like this is one that's going to get that. It doesn't feel like that to me.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, it feels like this one's pretty locked and loaded, pun intended. You know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
I hope I'm wrong. This is one time in my life I pray I'm wrong.
Yeah, because if you're right, that this is like wave one.
Yeah, you might as well go back in the house, lock your door.
Yeah, be concerned about, right?
Yeah.
I hope you're right. I don't trust the judicial system.
I don't either. But he ain't getting off.
Yeah.
If he get off, he might as well just move out. They already said he's a flight risk.
Yeah,
that's what they're putting on him right now. He's a flight risk.
because he walks out. He won't be walking very long.
He ain't getting far.
Man, the day if he gets off, Target is gonna close all this.
We ain't gonna have nowhere to buy nothing.
Target, I'll have a Target on its back.
We ain't gonna have nowhere to buy nothing. You know what I mean?
Target is just gonna have everything stacked up outside the doors. Like, listen, y'all.
Yeah, take it. Here you go.
Yeah, don't break no windows. Just here.
Yeah, please.
You want take a Blu-ray player out.
Right. All this was on clearance. Have that.
Oh,
anyway, that's 70-80% off. Here, we just gonna give it.
oh my gosh. Well, listen, you guys. I appreciate you doing this again. I know things got goofy here in the beginning. I don't know. It's still my computer. I don't just blew up literally. It's crazy. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's happening. But I really appreciate you guys coming on and educating and giving some input and some insight. I'm not sure. Hopefully we could do this again. I don't mind keep doing this. I don't mind what you guys are doing maybe next Monday. Who knows? But I'd like to dig in and keep going. As long as this is something. I say we keep chatting about it,
Hey, we still locked in the house, fam. So
yeah, you're right. Right.
We still locked in the house.
Right.
I'm just going to leave you with, not leave you completely, but there's a biblical part in the Bible that says, Matthew 5:3 says, happy are those who are conscious of their spiritual need. We're in a zone now that you need to understand where we at in time. You know what I mean? You need to understand where we're at. And part of that is your spirituality. If you want something good to come about, something will be good. It may not be handed to you right away, right? You may have to dig and find and uncover, but if your heart wants something good, that will lead you. It'll lead you. But if you don't want this to end and all this unrest and you just want to go on, that's exactly what's going to happen. So be careful of your thoughts and your heart condition, man. It's important. It's really important that you monitor your heart and you monitor, what you actually really want.
I love it.
Other people call it a vision board. I like, what I put on my vision board the other day? The word LIVE. That's what my vision board said. Live. You know what I'm saying?
Now here we are live. See
live.
What you did, Brother James? See what you did?
James, so that's what it was about, James. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, listen, Ernie, you got any last words? Any last words for tonight?
I don't know. Look. At this point, as an artist, as a person, I feel like I'm exhausted. Right? I said this to somebody the other day, when all of this unrest started happening and people I'm sure a lot of artists like myself, we've been screaming about these issues from the whatever mountaintop we could get for decades at this point. And for the first few days that this all hit the streets and all of that stuff, I laid down on my bed and I was like, yo, everybody else is finally saying all the stuff you've been saying for 20 years to their friends, their family, or whatever. I think I could lay down for about 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
I think I could lay down and rest for like 5 minutes. I don't got to be the one out shouting it out right now. It ain't going to take me long before I re-engage. But, so for whatever that's worth, this is not a passing fad that stops when the protests stop.
Yeah.
This is a lifestyle now.
Right.
This is a lifestyle you got to take on. There's people that virulently want to keep people who look like me and people who are akin to thinking like I do, regardless of race in that regard. They want to keep our thoughts or ideas second-class citizens. This is an everyday thing. You got to live it every day. So for whatever that's worth, don't turn your back.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate both you gentlemen, sincerely. It's really an honor to have you guys and have you guys in my life and being able to do this. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
My pleasure, bro.
So I'll tell you,
everybody will see you Thursday night. I got some comedy coming down the lines again. Throw down Thursday, 8 p.m. Q loves you all again. And then we'll be working on, again, another Mindful Monday next Monday. Hopefully my computer will be working. We'll be able to do this the right way. And I hope you guys enjoy the tour of the house. Anyway, everybody be safe, be well. Gentlemen, you guys, thank you again very much.
All right.
Have a great
Peace.
Yeah,
y'all.
yeah.
peace.